Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for coming for our presentation. We're going to be talking about building smart forms in SharePoint. And with that, we'll begin. I am Will Cooper. I'm the training coordinator for Infowise and for their product, Ultimate Forms. I do anything and all things SharePoint. I build solutions and do consulting for all kinds of different organizations using SharePoint. I have a YouTube channel, which you can find named SharePoint Smart. And then also I have a SharePoint product, which is a companion tool that you can use along with Ultimate Forms. And just to tell you a little bit about Infowise and our philosophy, we're all about making things simple and easy, and we also want to keep improving our tools, our approach, and our product. So that's how we approach things. Ultimate Forms is a comprehensive toolkit that you can add to your SharePoint environment, and it's available both for on-premise SharePoint and SharePoint Online. It is a no-code toolkit. You don't have to do any kind of programming. You don't have to be a developer. You don't have to do any of those things. It's just simple and easy to use. Just to give some ground rules, we're going to take questions from you through the GoToWebinar interface. If you have questions or comments, just use that questions interface. Please be patient if it takes some time to get to you. We will address all those questions later in the session, so use that to interact with us. Towards the end of the presentation, we're going to be doing a drawing for a prize. We're going to be giving away an embroidered Infowise shirt that is for people who are inside of the United States. So you do have to be in the US to be eligible for that prize drawing. One last thing I'll mention, after our presentation on smart forms, there is some additional information on doing a smart dashboard and some of the dashboard tools related to SharePoint dashboards that will be after the main presentation. With that, let's go ahead and begin. As I mentioned, Ultimate Forms is available both for Microsoft 365 and also for on-premise SharePoint. And these are the tools that I use and that you can use to build smart forms in SharePoint. So, out of the box SharePoint has some limitations, and that can be a little bit frustrating. It's a great platform, but especially when it comes to things like smart form building, we don't have the tools directly there in SharePoint. There are some external things that we can tap into, typically that is developer oriented, or it's too limited. It doesn't give me the options I need to make what I call smart forms. Ultimate Forms really is about providing you all of those things that you need in order to accomplish that mission. As I mentioned, it's a toolkit. It adds all those capabilities that you're going to need to be able to do what you want in your SharePoint environment. So let's go through some key concepts. These are things that I've identified as functionality, abilities, goals that you should have in terms of building a smart form, something that's dynamic, responsive, and able to change according to conditions, user inputs, provide a good user experience, all of those things. All right, so here's some examples of things we want to accomplish, and you can look out for this as I get further along in the presentation, and hopefully you'll see that we accomplish all of these aspects of our mission. We want to have a dynamic header at the top of the form, which gives key summary information. In this case, we're going to be doing a help ticket system. We want to know who put in the ticket, what is the status, and what's the description of that ticket. That should be front and center right at the top of the form. We want to have the ability to show or hide different sections in the form according to what the user is putting in. And that's how you get to a dynamic form concept. So we need to provide that dynamic experience. We don't want to be showing information about things that don't apply in the situation, but we do want to be able to branch out and ask additional questions and show different form sections according to response. So here's just an example. You'll see that a little bit later on in the form. Along with that, and closely related, is conditional validation. Out of the box SharePoint, you can just simply say a field is required or not required. There's not really a whole lot of flexibility. We need the ability to apply validation rules which will be applied only in certain conditions. So depending on what the answer, we may need to collect additional information. So conditional validation has got to be a part of what we're doing. And then depending on your role, so almost in every kind of situation with a form, you have different roles, meaning you have your regular users who may put in requests or use it in a basic way. And then you have the people who are admin level. They are responding to the requests, or they're an admin level user of the tool, and they need special abilities to interact with the form. So we need to have the ability to give them an interface in that form where only they are going to be able to see it, or they're going to be able to interact with that part of the form. That's a key functionality. We need the form to provide different abilities depending on the user role. We want to have buttons in the form. We're not looking just for a simple form where you just go vertically down through the fields and hit save. We need to do more than that. And buttons go a long way in that purpose. We need to have something interactive, which allows users to click buttons to trigger certain events and updates in the form as they're working along. It's going to be a much better user experience. Instructions are a really big deal. What I can't stand are PDF documents that are off in a library somewhere that oftentimes don't get updated and nobody's really interested in reading through. Not a great way to provide instructions to your users. Instead, we want in-context instructions directly right in the form. This is what I call baked-in help. So right in context, I want to do things like allow the users to see detailed instructions about what they're supposed to do in that form. I want to answer any of their questions right there. But there's a trick to that. I don't want to clutter the form with too much in there. That could be frustrating too. Maybe I already know that. And that's where you can do hover help, meaning you hover over an icon and then a window pops up with all my detailed instructions. In other words, I just see those instructions if I want to see it. It's not forced on me. We want to make that form change in appearance. We want it to be dynamic according to things like status. In this screen, you can see that top summary header that I talked about. It's going to change color depending on the status. Again, this is a help ticket system. I'm giving an example. So we want the form to not just always look the same. We want it to change depending on different conditions in the form. History logging. It's a really important concept that is missed all the time. Usually in forms, what you see is just the current information. And what's missing is the history of what happened before. Especially in the example I'm giving of a help ticket system, we really would like to know that. We don't want to just know where we are. We want to know, when was that ticket created? When did it get updated by the help team? When did that ticket get set on hold? What's happened in the last week? We need to see the whole story about what happened. And that's where history logging is important. Now, SharePoint does have version tracking, but it's not a user-friendly experience. And generally, it's a diagnostic tool for an admin level user. This is something where we want to show it right in the form, and it tells the whole story about what happened from start to finish. We want visual indicators. We want things that help us understand in a visual way things like progress. So here you can see a progress bar that tells us how far along is this complete. That's going to be useful in a dashboard concept. Images. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. We hear that all the time. Certainly in this kind of situation, we really want the user to upload a screenshot. How many of you have had to respond to a help request from somebody and they didn't give you a screenshot? All they told you is a sentence. But once they give you a screenshot, then everything becomes clear. We need to streamline that and make it easy for the user. So we want to go beyond just list item attachments, which is default SharePoint. We want to have something that's really easy to do. So I'll show you a drag and drop style interface with the image preview baked in. A really nice user experience, which really emphasizes the use of images. Okay, let's jump in. Let's get out of the boring PowerPoint deck. Here I am in SharePoint Online, and we're going to go to my SharePoint list. So I've made a list just called requests. It's for support requests. Here I am on the dashboard. What we're going to do is look at the form, and we're going to go through all the concepts that I just talked about. I'm going to show you how it works from a user perspective, and we'll make some updates in the tickets and talk about how it works from that side. And then I'm going to get into the actual configuration and show you just how easy that is to work with so that you're able to control all of that and set all those things up for yourself so you guys can make smart forms like this one. So let's do a new ticket. So here I am on the dashboard. We've got a progress indicator, priority, status, all pretty easy to understand concepts. These are for our help tickets. I'm going to make a new help ticket. All right, so what I want you to know some things. Now, I put some labels into the form. This is just for the purpose of our presentation. This isn't actually what you would put in your form. It's just to describe some things to help you think about what's happening dynamically in this form. All right, so notice without me doing anything, the requester field filled in. I want to streamline so that automatically filled in my name. I didn't have to say, well, I'm the one making the request. Also, notice the requested date also automatically filled in. And status automatically filled in. It's going to default to requested things. This is streamlining to help it become fast for your user. All right, let's say I can't download my daily progress updates from the server. Okay, there we go. You notice that it's changing. That's the dynamic header I talked about. So it's got the name of the person, and their request, the current status, and then it's going to have priority too. We're going to get to that. All right, so here's where going to be the detailed information. This is a rich text editor field. All right. And they can highlight and bold and all that kind of stuff too, just however they want to do it. All right, and then they continue down through the form. Okay, and then it says, how urgent is my request? Well, how urgent is everyone's? It's always the most important, right? If I need help, you got to help me first because I'm most important. So what are they going to do? They're going to pick high. Well, it doesn't really help us a lot if everybody just puts in high priority requests, right? We want to know, is it really a higher priority request? So we kind of have to give them a little nudge and say, you sure about that? So I put a special message and I said, selecting high priority is like calling 911. Are you sure this is an emergency? If not, set the priority meter. So I gave them a little prompt about that, so they'd say, I'm not sure. And maybe they try to save it after that. Let me load my image. I mentioned the drag and drop image is really important. So I've got a screenshot of doing that while as user. And really, I didn't have to browse. That can be annoying if I have to browse to my image. I just dragged it right into the target box, and there it is. And what's cool is if I click on the image, boom, it just expands right out. I can see that screenshot really easy. Now, if I don't confirm it's a priority, it's going to be angry with me. So a little message popped up. It didn't let me create the ticket. It says, you have to confirm this is a high priority request. So I would say, yes, it really is. Or I'd say, well, I guess it's not that big a deal. So I can change it back to medium. So that's some of the concept I talked about where form sections can appear or be hidden dynamically according to rules that you're going to set up. And additionally, goes hand in hand with that, we need to conditionally apply validation. They had to do confirmation if it was a priority ticket. So at this point, they just do create request, and that'll drop us back out to the dashboard. We have some functionality creating a dynamic ticket number in the background. There's our cool screenshots. Now, some of these things you see are part of the SharePoint Dashboards tool, which I'll talk about later. Those are the edit button, this hover screenshot effect, and then also this circular progress bar, which you'll see is dynamic and can be updated. All right, so now let's go back into the ticket. You're going to see that things look different when I make my second trip into the form. All right, there's the medium priority at the top. And notice the form looks different. There's more information here. I have logging to indicate that the ticket's been updated, and we're going to do some more stuff. So now we're getting into a different role. Now I'm putting on my hat as the help desk person, and I'm going to make some updates. I'm going to say, all right, I'm 30% along. Notice the progress bar changes immediately, so that looks cool. And then maybe I want to add a note for the user. So let's try out that functionality. I am working on your ticket, but I have a few questions. I will give you a call later this morning. Okay, so this is so everybody knows what's going on. So I click add note. See what happened? It automatically appended this note into the history. So it's going to keep that whole track record. Imagine you're the help desk manager and you want to know what's going on with your team. You want to know that they're on it. You know, they're making the updates, they're following up. You want to be able to see that, or if you don't see anything, then you know, they can't say, well, I updated or did. You say, well, I don't see anything in that history. So this tells the whole story. We want to know the whole story. Okay. So when I clicked on that, it added a note, and then I can do an updates on status. These are those buttons I was talking about. This is cool. I want you to notice something. So I'm going to set this to scoping. So notice our status is requested right now. And there another update. Will Cooper ticket updated to scoping, has the date timestamp, and notice the background color of the bar changed. Notice the status is now updated to scoping. So we really have a smart form. It's totally dynamic. It's changing. It's giving me visual indicators to help me understand what's going on. And I have a whole history of everything with the ticket. So as the help ticket person, also, this is a section that's only going to appear based on my role. I can use SharePoint permissions to security control this content. So the users are going to see the updates, but they don't have the ability to do the status updates in the ticket. All right, there is my new ticket. I can't download my daily blah, blah, blah. And there's the screenshot. And then there's that progress bar. See, it says 40, so it's going to fill up. And notice also that it changes color according to how full it is. So that'll actually turn to green if I've got it, 100. So let's do another update real quick just to see what that looks like. All right, back in the ticket. All right, and now I'm going to say, all right, I got this all set. We've got a green bar. Notice the color changed. And I'm going to be a good guy and put a note. I fixed the issue. All right, I'm going to have my note. There, that's in there. And then I need to set it complete, right? So I do set complete. See how all those detailed updates are happening in the log? So anybody could go in there and see exactly what happened. And notice the bar at the top now says it's status complete. And I can go ahead and save out. And see that our dashboard view now looks different. There you go. There's a full progress indicator. And that's what we like to see. So lots of visual aspects to our smart forms and our smart dashboard. Now, let's look at this from your perspective, as in the person who needs to build this form and customize it and get it to do all these different dynamic things, which I showed you. So with our tools, you can have an extra option on your toolbar, and you just click on that button, and this takes you to the main Ultimate Forms design screen. You can think of this like a big toolbox. There's all kinds of options and functionality available. We're especially focused on forms today. So I'm going to go into their form designer tool, and this is how it looks to develop the forms. So the way I make some of this dynamic functionality is really intuitive. So let's just give an example for like the requester. I want that to default to the current user. How did I do that? I just went in here, I added a role, and I said, I want you to use this function here called current user. And that's what makes it automatically fill in. For requested, same type of thing. I said, just make that fill in with today for that. And I can make updates to set which forms it applies in. And then status, I just say, oh, that should be defaulted to requested on the new form when they first created it. So that's how I apply some of those rules. And then I'll show you how some of the things work conditionally, such as this message and the priority and that type of thing. So recall we have this first question that says, how urgent is your request? And that field is called priority. So I need to listen for the value of priority to know how these other fields are going to behave. So this is a little snippet I put in there, and I made a rule. I just simply said, read if priority high. That's my description. So it says read, and then I said with the condition, priority equals high, and that means it only appears, as I already demonstrated, if this field is set to high. And that's immediate too. If I change it back and forth the form, that pops into view or hides accordingly. And this is the same type of thing. Now in this case, I needed the conditional validation rule. Same situation. I said, only in this case when priority equals high. At that point, now I need to apply validation rule, and I can put in my message. I say, you must confirm this is high priority request. And I'm asserting this must be yes. You must confirm this is high priority. So that's my conditional validation rule there. Now, the history field, I don't want the user to change that. I've already set up the form to do those updates automatically. So I need that read only. Very easy. I just apply a read role, and that makes it so it just displays information in the forms. The user doesn't fill anything out there. That's what those buttons at the bottom of the form do. So we'll take a look at one of those. So we'll take a look at, set complete. We just did that one. So this is a special kind of button that you can put on the form. It's an action button, and you just indicate other fields you want to update. So it changes the status to complete, and then I have a little snippet that tells it the information to fill in there. See, it says ticket updated to complete, did a little formatting with the time and stuff like that. And that makes it so that immediately in the form, it just fills in that information. And that's all there is to that. A couple of things I want to mention. We're recording the presentation today. If you want to replay any of that or share it with anybody, you can just go to our YouTube channel later today. And what's really cool, I'm saving this as a template, which will be available for you after a session. Yes. I will lose my work. Okay, you can install a free trial of this, and once you've done that, you can go into our solution catalog and click on Infowise webinars, and later today you're going to see a tile for Smart Forms, which is the solution that I'm showing today. You can download and install that and have this exact form that I'm showing on our presentation right now. That way you can play around with it and see exactly how it works for yourself. So that's a very cool thing that will be available to you. So I do want to talk to you about how do you get it. Of course, we want to give the opportunity for people to try out the tools to see exactly how they work. So the way you can do that is go to the InfowiseSolutions.com homepage and then just click try for free. It'll walk you through the steps, and it is something you can get installed in a few minutes. Very easy to do. Another option available is sign up for a call and we'll talk to you. We'd be happy to do that. Maybe you have a particular project, the burning needs project, as I call it. Every organization has got one, the thing that's got to get done right now. If you want to talk to us about that kind of thing, or you just want to have a more interactive session, be sure to click on Request a Demo. We'll set up a web meeting. We'll meet with you, and we'll answer any questions you have about our product or anything you want to do with your SharePoint project. We've got lots of other great resources. We have tutorials with full instructions on how to use the product. And we have instructor-led training. I know all about that because that's part of what I handle for Infowise. And then we have technical information, blog updated regularly with all our features, improvements, and then recordings of other sessions that we've done. So lots of resources available, one step at a time. All that you really need to focus on initially is just go ahead and install the trial so you can try it out. You can use all the functionality, and that's available running for 30 days. So I hope that you'll consider that if you don't already have our tools. Let's do a drawing for a prize. How's that sound? So what I want you to do is use the questions interface, and I'm going to ask you for a number 1 to 100. You do need to be in the US for shipping reasons. Otherwise, it costs us $1 million to ship. If you're in the US, go ahead and make a guess, number 1 to 100. I'm going to give you about 15 more seconds, then I'll pick a winner, and then we'll start to answer some questions for you. Go quick, go quick. I'm going to pick a winner very shortly. All right, I've got a winner right on the nose, and that is Daniel Langton. Daniel, hopefully you're in the US. If you are, send me an email. My email is WILLC@InfowiseSolutions.com. That's willc@InfowiseSolutions.com. Send me your shirt size and your address, and you'll get your prize mailed out today. Thank you for that. With that, we'll go ahead and see if anybody has questions. So I'm looking in the questions interface, and I'll try to do my best job to answer that. Okay, so there was a question about forms, and it was a good question. We actually have an ability to do external forms as well. So you can build things like a contact form or a help request form for a customer outside of your SharePoint, which is interesting because that's otherwise impossible in SharePoint. So that's a good question. It's covered in another one of our webinars if you look under resources. If you're looking to use SharePoint to be able to collect information from people from your public website, there's a way you can embed your SharePoint form to that. That's part of our tools. That's a good question. Email notifications, yes, that is probably one of the easiest and most complete and comprehensive aspects of our tool. Any kind of rules you want to come up with, it's under business logic. You'll just click on alerts. You can try this out for yourself once you install the trial software in your environment. Very easy to work with. You just do add new profile, define your recipients and your rules, and then you can define your content for your email and format that to include that. It will automatically generate emails, send them out. Clearly, that would be a part of the type of solution I just showed with the help ticket system. It works great, and it is a million times easier than trying to do what you would otherwise have to do with SharePoint. You have to go through some complicated, time-consuming workflow. You wouldn't have to do any of that. You can do it all through that interface. Good question. Thank you, Robert. All right, you guys are making my life too easy. Usually I get some stumpers. What other questions do you have about building smart forms with these tools? Cross-site lookups. We do have a special kind of a lookup field. It's called a connected lookup. You can do things like cascading lookups, meaning you can have a lookup where you pick a general category and then the next lookup shows you just options within that category. In terms of linking between different sites, usually that would be within the same site collection. So that's probably about the extent I can answer that question. It's a bit technical. I imagine that you may have a little more questions on that. So just go ahead and send me an email if you want to talk about that more specifics. Repeating tables. Okay, that's what you call like line items. An example would be if you have a timesheet system. What I would recommend if you're interested in that type of functionality to check out one of our webinars. If you look in here, there's several that emphasize that type of functionality. With Infowise, it's referred to as associated items. I would particularly suggest you to take a look for timesheets. There's another solution for expenses tracking. Those are just two examples that heavily emphasize the use of a repeating table. Form layouts, horizontal, are the restrictions? Not quite sure I totally understood your question, Michael, but I can only assure you that the form designer is extremely dynamic in terms of what you're able to do. You can do tab controls to do tab forms. You can do accordion sections. You can do multiple column layouts. For the most part, I really have never run into any limitation in terms of how you can lay out your form. So I can only answer you in general, yes, you should be able to do anything that you want to with that form layout. Are the licenses for named users or concurrent? Good question, Chris. The licensing model is based on people using the form. So anybody who interacts with the form, that's a user. And if you want to know how the pricing works, it's the subscription model. For SharePoint Online, it is. So you just need to figure out how many users in your SharePoint environment will be interacting with your forms. That'll give you your user count. So there is not a concept such as user licenses or how many people are in the system at a time. That doesn't matter. It's just the total number of unique users who over time interact with that system. So hopefully that generally helped you understand. On-premise SharePoint's a bit different. That's a server license model. So in that case, you just need to know how many SharePoint servers you're using, and that will help you figure out the cost for that. Good question. All right, I'm going to give you guys a quick minute in case you have any other questions. If not, we're going to move on. I'm going to tell you some additional info on a companion tool called SharePoint Dashboards. And I'm going to just give you some info on how you can tap into that and know what that is, and I'll explain how that ties into what I was just demonstrating. All right, good questions. I really appreciate your feedback. Again, if you just want to have a conversation with us, you can just go to the Infowise page, click that blue request a demo button. We can set a meeting up with you. Be very happy to talk to you. The very most important thing you can do, if you haven't already done it, is try now, and you can get the whole software and also download what I showed today. So I hope that you will do that. All right, let's talk about SharePoint dashboards. This is a tool specific to SharePoint Online. So unfortunately, there's some limits with on-premise SharePoint as it relates to what this is, which is column and view formatting. So if this is something to take a look at, just letting you know, it's specifically for that type of environment. This is about making great looking dashboards and visualizing your SharePoint environment for your users. And this is all about templates. This has more than 100 templates, right now 102 templates, and there's all kinds of different things you can apply. As it relates to what we were just looking at, some of the columns that you saw on this request list are using some of that. Most notably, there's an edit button there. That's part of the SharePoint Dashboards tool. This hover screenshot, that's a special template from the SharePoint Dashboards tool. And then the circular progress bar. In general, the way this works, you can go to column headers, column settings, and format the column, and you can apply a template in there over that, and it will change the appearance of that. So that can be done for views or columns. What I would recommend is that you try this out for free. There are actually 20 templates in this tool set that are available for free. You could sign up immediately and start using it today. And those ones that are free have a little green pill next to them. And there's some very common useful templates that you want, especially buttons. So the edit button, I probably use that more than anything. And then there's some additional related buttons that you can show in your interface. And then there's some other things for ratings, status updates, and things like that. So that's a good way for you to try this out, begin to understand how it works. What's nice is there are instructional videos in each of these templates which explain what to do. You can click on the green button for that. And you can make these look however you want. So just like with Ultimate Forms, I can use configuration menus and I can make little adjustments to change the appearance before I apply the template. And then also I've got things where I can use an icon picker. I can select whatever icon I want, stuff like that. And then I've got color pickers to change colors, and you can set it up just to look however you want. If you're curious, what kind of templates are available, there's all kinds of different categories. There are 22 charting templates. There's buttons, status indicators. One of the ones you saw was the radial gauge. That's the one I used for the progress indicator. And they can be whatever size you want. So this gives you a preview real time to show what it's going to look like inside of your SharePoint environment. So I can pick from a theme selector, if I'm just looking for ideas, but you have complete and total control over how that's going to look. So every one of these controls let me tweak and tailor the appearance until I have that exactly how I want. So you can see there's lots of options. So all you have to do is fiddle around with that until it looks how you want it to do, and then you can click the copy the template there to copy it, and then you can paste it right over to your SharePoint environment, and you just go to format this column and you select that and paste, and that's all there is to it. So to get started with that, just go to the SharePointDashboards.com site and then click on the Start for Free. It'll take you into a little form. All you got to do is stick in your name and email and hit sign up. You'll get a login sent to you, and then you can use those 20 free templates forever and ever as long as you want. If you want to use the pro templates, which are the advanced ones, like the charting, there's a subscription that you pay for. You just need a license only for the person building templates. That's important because if you use Power BI and you do some dashboards with that, Microsoft charges you for every user viewing those dashboards. So that can get really expensive. In this case, all you need is a subscription just for you or developer team, the people that are going to build those dashboards. That's all you need. So it's quite accessible and attainable. All right, that's what I wanted to tell you about with SharePoint dashboards. So I hope you try that for free along with Ultimate Forms. So let's go to questions on that. Do you guys have any questions about SharePoint dashboards and how you can use that? You guys are a little quiet. I'm looking for to throw me a curveball or something like that. I see there was a question about compatibility with SharePoint 2019. Oh yeah. Well, this is really for SharePoint Online. If you are curious, some of them will work. And if you're curious about that, if you go into the template, the edit button will work. So the product overall, just in terms of what Microsoft provides, is for SharePoint Online. But you can go in there. Let me just show you how you'll know. If you go into edit button, you'll see a little icon that says SP 2019 next to it. So some of those free ones are. So you should sign up for free anyway. If you got that, you can take advantage of it. All right. Chart on a page above a list that it connects to. Well, Tom, you have options both with Ultimate Forms and with the SharePoint dashboards to do that. That's a little bit outside of the scope of our presentation, but we do have instructions in the Infowise site. If you have any problems working with that or the tutorials aren't helping you, I would suggest you can maybe put in a support request. We'll try to help you out. That's a little bit beyond what I can describe today for the sake of our presentation, but it's a good question. So it would depend on which tool that you're using, how you might approach that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the presentation, and